with that, what I'd like to do is open up the agenda for public comment. So I do need a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anybody have a comment on anything on the agenda? Mr. Pesci?
Frank Petty, 11 Hemlock. There's just too much to cover. I'll try to do it as rapidly as possible and probably won't get answers. Dave's presentation in reference to Ocean Acres. One of the things he failed, of course I got the brief, and the brief doesn't indicate what it should have indicated. The brief should have indicated that the department, DEP, Fish and Game, actually stated that that developer should not be given any further consideration. If I knew that, I would have brought it tonight. And that the pits were spiked, okay? That's what it said, and that's what the planning board that night acted on. And we also had, for years, John was working with DEP to make that a conservative zone. There are records indicating that should have been that zone. The other thing that happened, which bothered me, it should have been by trial. It was, you guys agreed that it wasn't going to trial, it was going to be like arbitration. I presented, and of course I had Mr. Dasty try to jump all over me that night, in reference to the Pinelands Association wanted to intervene in the case, and they were disallowed because it said that the governing body, which you all received the letter, that the governing body said that they didn't need anyone else to intervene. So what in fact Dave said is accurate to one point, but not the other point, because the same company that did that study that was flawed did the study over in the park, okay, where Costco's and the other buildings are there. And what happened, and you all read it in the paper, I didn't have to tell you, the snakes came back. So there's, that's what your study does for you.
See, what we're going on, and remember, 4 out of the 5 people, we voted against it. Now, we're going on what the judge is indicating. Now,
I didn't see what the judge indicated. I still have that document, and it said,
Frank,
his opinion will follow. There is no opinion. I called the court up today.
the judge will
Okay.
make a decision, and this committee is not going to put the township in a position where we're going to get hammered.
What are you going to get hammered for? You're going with DEP that said that was flawed.
Why didn't DP stop it then? They're not involved
It is up
themselves.
to, they are.
No, they're not. They left the
All right,
township.
the next meeting, I'll bring the letter, or I'll put the letter in the paper from DEP. Like they said the other night at the zoning board, that I lied, I didn't know anybody.
No, I didn't say that. No, I mean, I wouldn't say
No,
that.
you-
I respect
all right.
everything you say.
And that I didn't know this person, but he addresses the letter to me, dear, Frank, not Mr. Pesci, Frank, and explained they didn't have any problem with sidewalks and curbs down there, okay, which I had said that night. And it explains it here,
Well, let's-
that they didn't,
just
the
to finish-
developer has to,
Just to finish up
remediate.
on Mark Madison, the judge is going to make the decision. Now, we have legal counsel, and the judge is given indications of which way he's going to go on this. So we, as the township, has to be very careful as to what we do.
that will be offered in evidence, because I'll get the transcripts. I want to see that document offered in evidence from the state of New Jersey, the Department of Environmental Protection, and what they said about that area.
But then we shouldn't even be in litigation then, because they would come right in and stop it. So why are we fighting this?
It's just like why you gave your engineer, according to the meeting the other night, waived the sidewalks and curbs, okay? Did you?
No.
And then went, okay, but that's not what the statement was made that night, unless I misunderstood what John said. He was
All right,
authorized
let's
by
stick
the
to the
township.
agenda. I don't know anything about that. We don't interfere with the boards.
I didn't say
speak
that,
to
I'm
board
saying what
members.
he said.
You-
He represented the township.
All right, let's stick to
Okay.
the agenda.
Well, that was one on the agenda, about the Walters and down there. And I am not I appreciate what you guys did in the beginning, but I do not appreciate acquiescing to a developer again. And there was another document which you should be reading too, which you should have, in fact the zoning board didn't even have it, which indicated something else that's happening down there.
But we have attorneys for that, Frank. I'm not an attorney. There's nobody up here that's an attorney other than
But you
state
should be
senator.
advised by your attorney or engineer
Where do you
what's
think
happening.
where do you
shouldn't you?
think we get the advisement from before we make these decisions?
Oh, boy. Oh, on the fire engine. I don't have any problem, which I said in the beginning, with the fire engine. I read a document from the investigative group stating that about proprietary. In other words, some of those things that maybe the other company couldn't bid on or whatever, it all depends on the way you write your specs. I could write your specs that you have to have Frank Pecci in the front seat. Well, the other company doesn't have Frank Pecci in the front seat. So until you see the exact document, well, why not? Why not? I could sit in the front seat. But you got, it's a proprietary. Some of them have, and which I read that night, there are particular things that they have on certain fire engines that they have patents on, someone else can't. Whether it be the roll bar in the back, whether it be bags on the side. So if you put those all generically in, another company, impossible to bid on. They could bid on the rig, but they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to do it. So I will stop in to see the two bids in the comparison and to see, there they are, and what they are and how that bid came about. Who developed the bid? That's the question. That's the question that the feds asked.
Well, the specs are given by the fire department, all right, by our volunteers of what they
And
want.
that's what it said.
Okay.
Usually the volunteer fire departments want this, and they know what they want, and other companies can't provide this, and this.
Agreed.
And there's no problem. I said in the beginning, we need a fire engine, you get a fire engine. But I don't go to $700 and some thousand dollars when I get $500 and some thousand dollars. And just to, I was rummaging through a number of things. I'd just like to read, this is, okay. It says, Pecci into head board to study water needs. And what I told you about the fluoride, but I also told you about water and all that. I headed that thing for the state of New Jersey. So here it is, if anybody, wants to see it. The other is, on the turf, I just heard that, and one of the things I'm not going to comment, I know that Raphael was here at the last meeting, and actually on the website indicated how old that material was. I'm pretty sure that's what he had showed, right from their website. So I think he ought to bring the township up to speed exactly what and all that said. Now, you negotiated the contracts. I noted that in another town, the police contract, they eliminated the longevity. I think it was Egg Harbor, Little Lake Harbor, eliminated. We still incorporate it, even though it's been modified. I'm glad to see, I've always asked you guys to develop another contract, a new contract. But there again, you're backloading. You remind me of somebody else that was in this town backloading things. But when you give people 1.95, the way the contract reads right now, for the 5th year, they get 5% longevity. The 8th year, you get 6%. So it's not 1.95. You got to understand, and you got to let the people know that it's in addition. This is in addition to it. And up to the 20th year, it's, what do I have here, 19? 20th year, 10, I'm sorry, 10%. So longevity, there are courses that they take, there are things that build up, in that budget. That's why it's $5 to $6 million. And what David said, that what they're going to give back as far as their insurance, I figured out the one, with the officers, that's for the first year, bango. After that, you're right back where you are before. They're going to move up on a step. they're gonna move up on the financial guide. Because you're compounding a base. Every time you put 1995 on a base, the base changes. It goes up, doesn't go down. I'm sure there were other things, but that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Thanks, Al. I got a couple thank yous to the committee, you wanna hear them? Sure. Yeah? The last meeting, I brought up about that $50, and we had it straightened out. It's good news. You know, it was an injustice done to certain people, friends I know, and it's nice to see the committee on the ball. Al, I want to thank you for your wise decision in putting Fred Boyce on the Open Space Committee. I mean, the most qualified person I could see that would serve on there, especially with his attendance record on the zoning board. Smart move, Al. Congratulations.
First of all, you don't know anything about Mr. Blows.
We got a guilty conscience?
I don't have a guilty conscience. You're out of order.
I congratulated you. Don't tell me I'm out of order.
You are out of order. You're insulting a person, you don't know anything about the man.
I met him.
One time?
I met him at a couple of meetings.
Move on, next question, please.
Sure. On the I don't know which agenda it is, on the Ocean Acres zone, I wish you would, I too have some documents on that. And I was part of the original thing when I found out that, that they were letting the snakes die in the old traps, and that they spiked the traps. And caught me with my pants down. I don't have the stuff with me. Can't you just postpone that for the following meeting? It's been going on for a few years.
It's only first reading.
Eh?
It's only a first reading.
It's first reading,
All right.
and then it has to go to the planning board.
All right, that's good enough. It looked like you might act on that, and I'm not ready to, to throw in the towel on that. Also, in fact, one small thing on the turf, that I think we beat that to death. The turf, on the internet itself, Al, go on that line, and it tells you what year that was put down. I mean, you don't have to call it.
I understand what you're
I
saying.
mean, it goes back to it comes out to the right 6 years. So if you don't want to talk to the guy, it's on there. Any of you gentlemen, go in there and look, so you have thing, and Marty, little feet wear it out as well as big feet.
I just made that opinion because I didn't know. I didn't know where the weight had any determination on the longevity of the field.
I got the increases, and I just want to go into one other thing, and you don't want to talk about it, but I think that at the zoning board meeting the other night, I questioned the engineer because I was concerned that if I'm paying the engineer, I was against the decision that was coming down, like sidewalks, and if I was fighting my own money or not. So the township engineer was asked. I asked him, and I said, he said he was instructed by certain members of the township committee to come to try and waive these sidewalks. Is any members of the township committee here that instructed him to waive these sidewalks?
Absolutely not.
Well, the minutes, the minutes are taped.
First of all, from what I know, and I can't comment, but that's illegal. Correct?
I'm
All right.
not familiar with
I mean,
Well,
explain the background.
no, but I mean, can a committee or a mayor or somebody go down and tell a board of adjustment how to vote?
No.
That's not how they instructed him. They didn't tell him how to vote. The engineer was working for the township committee at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Let John explain.
Let me explain it. As the town engineer, we have been preparing the plans at the direction of the township committee for the Laurel Oaks project. One of the things that came up when we first started the design a year ago is we were advised by members of the DOT, representatives of the DOT, that when the paving job took place on Route 9, that there would be a 5-year moratorium, and that no improvements would be permitted. So therefore, as we put the plans together, we got and if everyone will recall, we got the DOT to have their contractor put in the water main. They also put in the driveway apron so we wouldn't be subject to the road opening moratorium. Once that's done, we were advised that once the road was paved, that there would be 5 years before you could do anything that was going to open the road. Opening the road includes curbing, drainage, and things like that. So since what we had been advised by the DOT is that we would not be able to open the road for 5 years. As part of the application, and we discussed it with the township, we requested a waiver from putting in curbing on Route 9. The initial waiver request was only curbing. We did show that we were going to put in sidewalks. The DOT subsequently came back and said that their policy, and we just heard this recently, their policy is that they will not allow sidewalks unless there's curbing installed that's associated with it. And in order to put in curbing, you need to put in drainage, all of which we were under the understanding from our initial meetings with the DOT would fall under a moratorium. We recently, so there was a waiver request from putting in the sidewalks because the DOT wouldn't give us the approval for the sidewalks without the curbing. After the meeting, when a question was raised that Mr. Pesci had indicated he spoke to someone at the DOT, we followed up with the people that we've been dealing with in permitting. We spoke to the project manager in permitting, who said he thought it was a full moratorium, but he would check. And then he got back to us and said they had made a mistake. He didn't understand how the moratorium program worked. And the way it works is there's actually a moratorium from a major utility opening, but there's not a moratorium from doing things like drainage and curbing, et cetera. So I've been talking to Mr. Breeden, and we're going to amend our submittal before the board, but we were going based on representations that we received from the DOT at the start of the project, and we were relying on that. And apparently, the information, I guess from the people at the top of the DOT, never filtered down to the project managers who were doing the actual review in terms of how their moratorium program is actually enforced.
Okay, and your recommendation is gonna be in the best interest of the township?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, see, the question I had, I'm not,
Well, and let me back up to that. The question was, we were accused of having a conflict of interest because we were there before the board representing the township, but Walters was the person that was going to ultimately build the complex. So I was accused of working for two people, which I absolutely, venomously said that that's not the case. We work only for the township.
yeah, and
I don't work for Walters. I've never worked for Walters. I have no business relationship with Walters other than our dealings where we're representing the township.
the way I got it at the zoning board meeting, it has working for the township, which is, gets its instructions from the committee, it has, not the
I get
zoning
instructions
board.
from the township,
Township
which
and-
includes the,
The administrator and he went there for a waiver of the sidewalks and curbs, which I thought was
no,
ridiculous.
that's not true. I went there, Mr. Taylor, let's first of all get the facts straight. The curbs were previously waived as part of the original application. I was there the other night
To waive the sidewalks.
for a waiver of the sidewalks
Right.
only based on the feedback that we got from the DOT. That's correct, that was it. It wasn't a waiver of curbs and sidewalks. The s-
Waiver of sidewalks.
Right.
Well, if you're gonna waive sidewalks, then you're gonna go back and build buggy whips, because that's the, what I wanna ask, now, I had asked, but, like, on the affordable housing, trust fund, how much is in there?
I don't know how much is in the trust fund, I can find out, but I can tell you, the majority of the fund has been spent on the Laurel Oaks project as appropriately.
See, the reason I ask that, I'm not trying to.
No, go ahead.
See, at the meeting the other night with these attorneys, with the engineers there, representing, Laurel Oaks, I guess probably their money, which was two of them there, it's gonna be quite expensive, coming out of the trust fund, I guess, is that
It's
right?
their money, actually was their money,
Yeah,
not, it didn't,
The trust fund is not taxpayers' money.
it's not, no,
Building.
that's why I asked
right.
the question of how much is in this fund, because we did spend $1 million to buy the property for my good friend, Mr. Ed Walters. And,
Because
the
it's their,
township is,
but they were entitled to, whoever was gonna build it was
yeah,
entitled
well,
to it.
naturally, but I would like to know what's in the fund because of,
We could get that.
I was
number.
like,
Yeah.
I was like a little Spivey up there arguing about these sidewalks, and the engineers are being paid by tax money, which they're not, they're being paid by, now I know that, by
Right.
trust fund money, COA money. I wanted that question, and then, on the full, going into that there's going to be any questions, John, I went and got a lot of minutes on, I'm not going to take any time up, on the moratorium one thing, that's out of the picture now, the sidewalks is what.
That's out of the picture.
I ain't going to drag his stuff off of my chair there.
No, when we go back to the board, what I will need is, because based on the original representations, when we designed the drainage system and got the CAFRA permit, we didn't allow for any of that water coming in off of Route 9, because we weren't doing curbing, we didn't have to put a separate drainage system. There was a condition in the CAFRA permit that says, because when we do curbing, we're gonna have to have a couple inlets, and they'll have to be piped into the basin, because the DOT will not allow us to extend a pipe down the street to connect into the other basin by the hardware store.
We're going to have sidewalks.
They told us
My
today they
concern
won't do
was
that.
we have sidewalks,
So
and that's it.
we will have sidewalks. What we'll need is a delay to allow us to, for the curb and sidewalk, to allow us time to go back to CAFRA.
And you say all this drainage and stuff, one other question, if you permit me, just on the
One more
turf.
question, okay?
Last question,
Last question.
on the turf, like we spend a lot of money, taxpayers' money, open space money, down there on the fields, on drainage and stuff like that. If we'd have put the turf in like we put on the football field, without all these astronomical drainage fees and all, wouldn't that be sufficient? I mean, I know you had to do a lot of extra work down there, I see your truck down there, I go past there almost every day, just to see the progress. And, you know, if we put regular turf, we would have saved a lot of this excess work, wouldn't we?
Now, I think the field still would have had to be raised in order to make sure that it had proper drainage. So the field has been raised, and everything has been prepared for installation of the AstroTurf.
Did you have anything to do with the regular turf down there?
No, I did not.
And I'd like to remind the committee, I think when they put it down, the teams put it down, I think I was down there one time, wasn't some people from town, the town people with the help of the teams, put it down without no cost. And it's been down there, I guess, what, 3 or 4 years now? Working fine. You understand? I mean, we gotta look beyond some of this,
No, I understand.
and you know, there's a lot to this that don't meet the eye, Al. And I wish you would, you know, I know you're
That's why we're
trying,
listening,
look
that's
into
why
it.
we're listening.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Whoa!
I got it, excuse me, I got vertigo.
I didn't drop my wallet, did I?
No, I had vertigo, so some spin. As far as the, Vince Green, Heritage Bay, United States. As far as the police contract, I think it's fair for the police and the town. What people don't realize is the police have to pay 10% of their salary each week towards their pension. They were paying 8.5%. So you're giving them 1.9% raise. Another thing, they're paying up to they're going to be paying up to 30% of their health benefits. So they're really not getting anything. They're behind the 8 ball now. So I think it's a fair thing. Now, what do the pine snakes look like? I hate
Black with yellow stripes.
Because
Black with yellow stripes.
we have a couple in, I got a couple of snakes in our pool last year, big black ones.
With yellow stripes,
Yeah,
pine snakes.
I guess they just came to Heritage Bay, they're not over there, right?
Well, they chased them out over there.
One other thing, what are the other considerations we're gonna get from the town? Can you name them?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Well, let's just say that it's gonna come out to where it should be. In other words, things that we would have to do, we won't have to do.
Okay. That's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am? Sir, this is Caputo, Oh, I'm sorry.
Linda Croft, 38 Bridgewater's
I
Passage.
apologize.
Gentleman Sharon, ma'am. Regarding ordinance 21211, restricting the size of the political signs, I would ask that the committee, if it is within your realm, to also consider limiting the number of signs that can be placed on a property.
Can't really do that, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Only because it's, now you get into a freedom of speech issue. Somebody who wants to put a sign on their lawn, they can do that. And if we say, okay, you can only have 300 signs, but 500 people want to say, I want to vote for this one, or I want to vote for that one. Well, now you told those people they can't.
Okay.
Homeowners can do that.
Very good, thank you. Associations can, so that's why I didn't know if it was in the realm of the
You
committee.
have special rules and regulations, orders there that,
Well, look, you're absolutely right. Homeowners associations can regulate things like speech because it's not a government action.
Mhm.
The Constitution protects you against government action. And that's why the governing body is limited to time, place, and manner restrictions on freedom of speech. They can't get into what's on the sign, but they can regulate the size of the sign. They couldn't regulate the number of signs because, as Committeeman pointed out, that there may be more than one candidate that's involved, and that particular person may want to support them.
Support more than one. Very good, thank you.
Good
Thank
point.
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adorno?
Raphael Adorno, 22 Beacon Drive. First, I as well would like to apologize for my outburst. I just immediately got on the defense mode because you asked for a presentation, Mr. Mayor, and it turned into a personal attack, and that is a little disappointing that it occurred. That's what made me say something after the third time, but I do apologize for that outburst. It just should have been a presentation, and then questions could have been opened. I apologize. No problem.
Sure.
Along with my questions. Last meeting's video will clearly state everything that I stated, and I absolutely stated everything that was fact. I stated that the field was put in after the 2004 season. It played on in 2005. We all told you it was 6 years old or plus, and a year and a half of sitting down there, 7 years. That's what everyone told you. Whatever he stated, what I showed you was on a link. It's very simple to go on. I don't know if you went on the link. Navy Marine Corps United Memorial Stadium. It's there. It tells you. You click on renovation and you click on the field. All you have to type in is Navy Midshipman Memorial Stadium. Navy Memorial Marine Corps Stadium. It tells you everything that's there.